Hello everyone, this is Sukruti Joshi from LG Institute of Engineering and Technology, Ahmedabad. I am going to take the subject chemistry. The subject code for it is 311000001. Here we are going to start the last part of our chapter number 2, which is water technology. In our previous sessions, we have already seen certain parts of this particular chapter. We have seen the internal treatment and we have also seen the external treatment some part. Now, let's move ahead to the next treatment, which is known as ion exchange process. Ion exchange process is also known as deionization or demineralization process. Here, they can be or ion exchangers can be of two types. One is anionic type and second one is cationic type. Generally, the ion exchangers are the copolymers of styrene and divinyl benzene. For an example, long chain organic polymers with a microporous structure. Okay, so that they can easily change or they can easily exchange the ions with it. First we will take a look on cation exchange resins. So the resins containing acidic functional groups such as COOH, SO3H, etc. are capable of exchanging their H ions with other cations. So what they will do is they will exchange their own H ions with other cations like calcium and magnesium. In that manner, we can remove the calcium and magnesium, that is the hardness causing ions, from the particular water. Generally, the cation exchange resins are represented as RH. R can be any common group and H is very general in cation exchangers. Now, next is anion exchange resins. Anion exchange resins are the resins which contains amino or quaternary ammonium or phosphonium groups. With generally here, when treated with NaOH solution, it becomes capable of exchanging with their OH ions with other anions. So in general, I can say that anions are anion exchange resins are the resins which contain OH, which exchanges their OH with other anions. They are called or they are known as ROH. For an example, OH can be replaced by Cl, OH can be replaced by SO4, etc. So in this manner, we can replace it, right? So these are basically exchanges. This actually exchanges the resins, the ions. Okay? Let's observe the process. The hard water is passed through the cation exchange resin columns. So here it removes all the cations like calcium or Ca plus 2 and Mg plus 2, and equivalent amount of H plus ions are released from this column. So exchange occurs, H plus removed and Ca and Mg are entered, right? So this stopped on the cation exchange resins, right? Now, after the hard water is passed through the anion exchange column, it removes all the anions and the water contains OH ion. So what will happen? As you can see in the image, RH when reacts with Ca or Mg, it converts into R2Ca and its H are removed in the water. Likewise, when we have ROH, when it combines with the water which contains hardness, here Cl minus is replaced with OH. So RCl is formed plus OH minus is removed, right? So in this manner, what will happen? The continuous removal of anion and cation occurs. Along with it, they can be again here the output water is known as deionized water, right? So once the ion exchangers are exhausted, we can again pass the solutions of HCl and NaOH to revive them. Understood it properly, we can revive such solutions. Okay? Let's see here. We have cation exchanger bed and anion exchanger bed. First, we have a hard water inlet. First, it will pass to cation exchanger where Ca and Mg are removed, and after that when it is passed through the anion exchanger bed, Cl, SO4, etc. kind of materials are removed there, and at the last we will find the soft water out. Okay, we have to enter the hard water. First calcium and magnesium are removed, then chloride and sulfates are removed, and then we have a soft water outlet. This is the process of ion exchange or ion exchanger. Here, as you can see, on the left side we have acid regenerator, on the right side we have alkaline regenerator. So when the ion exchangers, cation exchanger and anion exchanger get exhausted, we revive them using acid and base. We can reuse them. This is their advantage. Okay, so let's see their advantages. This process can be used to soften highly acidic as well as alkaline water. It produces water of very low hardness, so it is very good for treating and use in high pressure boilers. Along with advantages, it has certain disadvantages, like it is costly, expensive chemicals are required, and if the water contains turbidity, then the output will be reduced because of it. Next here we will have a topic which is disinfection. We will take a look at disinfection and we will take a look at what is disinfectants. So, the process of destroying or killing the disease producing bacteria, microorganisms from the water and making it safe is known as disinfection. That means removal from infection. The bacteria are separated and the water is separated. Now, what are the disinfectants? Disinfectants are the chemicals or substances which are added in order to kill the bacteria or pathogens. Okay, generally it can be carried out through various methods. For an example, through boiling. If we boil the water for 10 to 15 minutes, it will kill all the bacteria. Second method is a bleaching powder. Bleaching powder, we use it to purify the drinking water from microorganisms. So what we need to do it, we have to dissolve 1 kg of bleaching powder in 1000 kiloliters of water. This dissolved water is left undisturbed for many hours. So what will happen? As the result of chemical reaction, the powerful germicide called hydrochlorous acid, here what will happen? The disinfection of the water will be done. And at the bottom, all the bacteria, the dead bacteria are captured. Now, depending upon this only, we have another technique which is known as breakpoint chlorination. Breakpoint chlorination is the point at which free residual chlorine begins to appear, and it is termed as breakpoint chlorination. In this process, a suitable amount of chlorine is added in the water to kill the bacteria, to kill the particular organic matter. Actually, this gives us the idea that where we have to stop the addition of chlorine. So as you can see in the image here, one side shows you residual chlorine, another side shows you applied chlorine dose. So as the applied chlorine dose increases, first stage involves oxidation of reducing compounds by chlorine. Then second one involves formation of chloroorganic compound and chloramines. Third one involves their destruction, and at the last, as everything is destroyed, now when we add more chlorine, it remains as it is. So it shows free residual chlorine. At that time, we have to stop the addition of chlorine. This technique is used in swimming pools. Okay, now let's begin with the next topic, which is desalination of brackish water. Brackish water means salt water. Salt water means seawater here. So the process of removing salt from the water is known as desalination. We all know that we have to use seawater for it, and we can convert seawater into drinking water using it. The first method for it is electrodialysis method. It is the method in which ions are pulled out of the salt water by attracting using electrodes and thin rigid plastic membranes. So here what we have to do is we have to apply the direct current. One side we have cathode, another side we have anode. So we have to remove this chloride and anions. We have to remove NaCl from the water. Okay. So Na is removed from the one side, Cl is removed from the another side, and desalinated brine solution is obtained. Let's understand it using the image here. As you can see here, we have cathode on another side, anode on other side. We have to pass the seawater from the upper compartment. The middle compartment contains membrane. What will happen when we add the seawater? The negative charge attracts towards the anode, positive charge attracted towards the cathode. At that time, Na is removed from one side, Cl is removed from one side. In the middle, we get the pure water. So, from the middle compartment, we can revive the pure water. Okay, while other two compartments give us the concentrated brine. Now, another method which can be used to convert the seawater in the drinking water is reverse osmosis. Okay. So when two solutions of unequal concentrations are separated by semi-permeable membrane, the flow of the particular solvent takes place from dilute to concentrated side due to osmosis. But or if a hydrostatic pressure is applied in excess of osmotic pressure on the concentrated side, the solvent flow reverses. Exact opposite occurs. It is also known as superfiltration or hyperfiltration. Okay, as you can see here, we have one whole compartment. On the upper side we have seawater, in the middle we have semi-permeable membrane. From the upper side, using a piston, we will provide it a hydrostatic pressure. So what will happen here? Here the concentrated one, salt or NaCl, remains on the upper compartment. Below that the H2O flows and we get a pure water in the lower compartment, and it can be removed from the side. Okay. Let's move on to the numericals. The first numerical is a sample of water on analysis was found to contain the following impurities. First impurity is CaHCO3 twice, that is present in 32.4 mg per liter. MgHCO3 twice is present in 14.6 mg per liter. Then we have CaSO4, which is in 6.8 mg per liter. MgSO4 6 mg per liter. We have to calculate the temporary, permanent and total hardness in ppm, in degree Clerk and in degree French. Now molecular weight or molecular mass is already given to us. Okay, we have to form a table like this, which I have shown you in the PPT. So what do we have to do? First we have to write down the hardness causing salts, all the salts which are given. In the second column we have to write the quantity of that hardness causing salt, which is already given in the question. Now after that we have to apply the formula. Okay, then we have to go through, and that formula involves quantity into 100 divided by molecular weight. Okay, so we get the actual quantity or equivalent of CaCO3, right? Based upon it we have to decide which type of hardness is it. Now first one is CaHCO3 twice. Its quantity given is 32.4 mg per liter. So we have to use the formula which is already given to us, 32.4 into 100 divided by 162 molecular weight of CaHCO3 twice. We get the amount 20 mg per liter or 20 generally. Okay, that is a temporary hardness. Similar way we have calculated for MgHCO3 twice, a temporary, CaSO4 a temporary, and MgSO4 a temporary one. Now what we will do is we will calculate the temporary hardness first. So the actual quantity of CaHCO3 twice plus actual quantity of MgHCO3 twice, that becomes 30 ppm as we have calculated in our previous slide. Okay. Similar way, if we calculate the permanent hardness, it becomes 10 ppm. Now total hardness is equal to the permanent hardness plus temporary hardness. So it becomes 20 or 30 plus 10 becomes 40 ppm. Here we get it in ppm. Okay, let's convert it. So 10 ppm is equal to 1 degree French. So 40 ppm is equal to 40 French. Okay, now 1 ppm is equal to 0.07 degree Clerk. So 40 ppm is equal to 2.8 degree clock. Okay. Okay, above it is 4 degree clock and below it is 2.8 degree clock. Okay. Make sure that how it is written and how we can calculate it. We have the next theory or next chapter in our next session. Thank you so much everyone.